afternoon. Not good afternoon. Good evening, people. This is Johanna Bright, and I am your host for Poetry Song, BFD, Battle for Dominance. Why Battle for Dominance? Because we battle with the words in our heads every single day of our lives. Yes, we do. So, what's the deal today? Well, the deal is I want to talk about some things that have, to this point, up to this day, um, been a real issue. Blood money. Yeah. But before I get into that, I want to play y'all some stuff. I got some old poetry, some new poetry, but I got this one thing I want y'all to hear because, I feel like that girl. Take a listen. I've spent my entire life trying to be better than where I came from. Where I'm from, the girls don't usually make it out of the neighborhood. They have the same friends that they went to school with living right next door to them. But let me just back up a few paragraphs and give you some backstory. I was born and raised in, out, and around the ghetto. Nothing too surprising for a black girl in this country, the United States of America. There are more poor black people per capita living in its depressed and oppressed cities than anywhere in these United States. Poor people jammed into big cities in small apartments with one bathroom, in tall sky-rises or three-story apartment complexes with catchy names, all of them with poor people. Blacks, and I say blacks because I don't know anybody's background. I don't know if their parents were immigrants, migrants, slaves, or even if mama got raped and couldn't get an abortion. But mostly, they're not white. But that's just my opinion. Life in my neighborhood was just what you would expect. It was rough. As a young girl, I had to learn early in life to be on my guard and to keep one eye out for the predators. You know, the kind. Perverts, flashers, child molesters, rapists, thieves, con men, and the other eye out for bullies and girl gang members and hell, just haters. I knew what it was like to sleep with one eye open. I cringed at night, not even knowing that was what outright fear was called, before falling asleep. I sought the safety, peace, and tranquility of my dreams. As a kid, we played in front of the building, in the back of the building, and when I got permission, we could walk to the park, where if you got there early enough, you could get to ride one of the few swings that weren't wrapped around the top of the pole by some angry teenager, or climb around on the jungle gym if that same teenager didn't purposely pour pop all over it and made it sticky. And if you came really early enough, you could play on the seesaw with another kid, and hopefully some other kid didn't come along and bully you off of it. Playtime at the park was never what it was cracked up to be. Eventually, some other kids would show up, and if you were having a good day and Jupiter was aligned with Mars, seriously, a game of tag could happen or hide and seek. On the best of all good days, a couple of girls would show up with the jump rope or a volleyball. And on the best day, But I could never get permission to go to the park very often because basically Mama said it just wasn't safe. Gang members hung out there and perverts looking for little kids to molest. Frankie the Flasher loved sitting in the swings waiting for some kid to come by. So mostly Mama just made us stay close to home. There was no community center to go to for kids in our neighborhood. We didn't have programs for kids, like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts. There were anti-this meetings and anti-that meetings, but those were for adults. Other than the summer day camp, that was it for us. When school let out, and those only happened at the park. For 6 hours a day, you got to play with kids your age. Summer day camp, where you can go and do crafty projects and eat lunch, which usually consisted of a bologna sandwich, chips or cookies, never both, and milk or apple juice, again, never both. The teens in charge just made sure you didn't get into trouble after that. Glorified babysitters. But it was still fun, and it got you out of the house and away from the building. When you got in the 7th grade, though, you couldn't go to day camp for free. Your parent had to pay. So it was over for me by then. Back to the front of the building. The summers after that were almost uneventful. I became a homebody. I stayed inside. I watched the world go by from the living room window, and I read lots and lots of books. When I wasn't reading books, I was watching television. Middle school over with, 8th grade graduation done, I became a freshman in high school and was completely lost. Truth is, all freshmen are. Whether it's high school, college, or first day on your first job, better yet, pick a first. High school was also uneventful until almost the end of senior year, and then I was an adult on my own. I always wanted to look at leaving home as my own choice. It was, and it wasn't. I could have stayed, but I didn't see how it helped my mom. So I moved in with my dad, who lived on the lower end of the south side in a 3-room apartment. I stayed with Dad about a year until I got my own place. And when I moved into my first apartment, I was terrified and excited. It was now that I look at it with mature eyes, a dump, a poor excuse for a studio. It was about 600 square feet. I had a kitchen, closet, bathroom, and living space. I went to the thrift store and got a trundle bed that doubled as a couch. I found a mirror in the alley behind my building. It had no cracks and the frame was in good condition, so I took it up to my apartment, hung it on the wall with some nails. And that was it for furniture. I purchased a set of plates, glasses, pots and pans, flatware, and some utensils for cooking. I had a set of towels and sheets and a heavy blanket. There was also a mouse. It seemed like a rat to me, but it really was a little starving mouse that scared the crap out of me. And when I went to the store to buy groceries for the first time for myself, I was as lost could be. But I played it off anyway, bought what I could find, got on the bus, and almost went home to my mama. I realized I was on the wrong bus and shrieked a little. I had to get off, walk back a couple of stops, and wait again for the right bus to come. I had my groceries and little boy in tow, who I carried on my back every day. I dropped him off at school around 7:30 a.m. and I picked him up at 6 p.m. until I couldn't afford it. That took about a month. Then I got a sitter in my building, and this chick was married with 7 kids. But I was thankful because I was able to attend school at night after work. I had classes 3 times a week, and my class lasted until 11 p.m. My major was marketing. My son and I would get back in the apartment around 12:30 a.m. in time to eat, wash up, sleep, and do it again the next day. We were up and out the apartment by 7 a.m., and I had to be at work at 8:15. It was quite the learning experience because I was still in my old neighborhood, but I was on my own. I didn't look like I was an adult. I was carded everywhere I went. Granted, I wasn't 21, but I was still an adult. I had a job, my own apartment. I was in school. I had my first child. I had loads of responsibility. Legally, I was old enough to vote, get my own place, be out whatever time of night I wanted, but I couldn't buy liquor or cigarettes. So I felt like life was cheating me. Really, I was cheating myself. And as time went on and I matured into the woman I am today, I realized how important it is to put your priorities first. Because most of us think we do, but we don't. That means knowing what your priorities are in the first place. Those would be paying your rent, mortgage, light, gas, food, insurance, and then vehicle and cell bill in that order when you get paid. Everything else is expense. I struggled with that like we all do when we were young. I wanted to go out and party, baby. Turn it up, all the way up. And I did a few times. Then when I realized turning it up meant walking a lot and no food in the house, that died a quick death. I didn't even miss it. But I wanted to be that girl. You know, that girl everybody wanted to be around? I wanted to be that girl when I was in high school and college. And having a baby didn't do it. And turning it up sure didn't. Then an epiphany hit me. That girl was never me. And she was never meant to be me. That girl was part of the neighborhood I wanted out of, and I was already on my way out. No, strike that. Am out of. That girl settled for a life that didn't lift her up or make her feel special or helped her understand that she was more than just some poor kid living in a low-income apartment complex. That girl is not who I am. But sometimes, when I feel defeated, I feel like that girl. Then I slap myself with my reality and tell myself to stop feeling sorry for myself, do what I'm supposed to do, and keep it moving. Yeah, so that was called I Feel Like That Girl. And I am Joe Bright, and this is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. I was not going to try and compete with Empire tonight. It came on just when I was supposed to start my live broadcast. And then I said, nope, I am not going to do that. Then my girl KT did her broadcast because, we like to do the Empire update. I'm going to have to catch her on that. We're going to have to get together and do the Empire update thing because we really do enjoy talking about my girl. But let me tell you something. Never, I don't care how popular you think you are, try to go up against a popular television show. Empire. Yeah, I'm guilty. um, I am Joe Bright, and tonight I want to talk a little bit about blood money. Yep, I got this thing that I wrote, but I want to tell you that blood money, and we're all guilty of it. Every single person in this country is guilty of taking blood money. Yeah. So this is my ode to blood money. I want you all to take a really close listen to it because I feel like it speaks to everybody. And people can say, oh, white people like this and black people like that. We're all guilty. So this is it. Blood money. You finally moved into that new home in your new subdivision with your brand spanking new spouse on a cul-de-sac overlooking a beautiful man-made lake. Your neighborhood has a shopping mall just minutes away and it's only 5 years old. The kids' school is 2 miles away. It has all the latest technology. They will go to only the best schools and parties, and there are so many different after-school programs to choose from, like athletics to academics, liberal to cultural arts. And if that's not enough, there are plenty of ballet, dance, music, modeling, equestrian, painting classes in town to choose from. And for you, the choices of entertainment are endless. While you can choose from a dinner and a movie at your local Cineplex, or maybe a concert, a play, festival, carnival, maybe you just want a weekend away. You can have that too. Or a vacation with the family for a week in that new hotel with entertainment for you and some just for the kids while you get around in your rental vehicle that you purchased with your unlimited credit card. And don't forget dining out every single night. The works. You and your spouse each have your own new vehicle. And when Junior turns 16, he or she can have one as well as a part-time job just because it's what you want for them. It's going to happen. You earned it. You deserved it. You have every right to it. So don't worry about all those other people who got stepped on and dragged down the street. All those people who were given the "we aren't hiring today" line, but when you came in, the job was yours. All those people who had just as much right as you did to that job. And don't think about that acceptance letter to that one college you couldn't believe you got into with the grades, or that car you bought when you were 16 and delivered newspapers and mowed lawns from the way it just wasn't worth the amount of money that you got for it. But it was in your neighborhood. And even though those other people worked just as hard, if not harder, rose with the rising sun, sacrificed their blood, sweat, and tears, and went to positions that you thought were beneath you after a while. Because just like you, they were raised to accept only the best, never settle for less. But when you woke up this morning and stretched your arms and legs, swung out of bed, showered, rinsed, dressed, and looked in the mirror, you never doubted your success. You never thought about the color of your skin. You never gave a moment's thought as to whether it would be a problem for you. You were confident. You know all about the killings, the lynchings, the burning, rape, kidnapping, thievery. You know all about the laws that have kept one or more factions of society at a standstill. Laws that gave you every opportunity to rise. And did it ever enter your mind that their life was absolutely unfair? Because they always seemed to struggle, and no matter how much they protested and complained and begged for a fair shot, they always came up short. But you didn't do any of those horrible things to them. I mean, you know people who did and still do, and you turn a blind eye to it. You go and live your life as if nothing is happening. The American dream. You signed off on it. And don't say you didn't. You signed off on it every time you took a job knowing you weren't qualified, but for the pay, it was just what you wanted to move ahead in life. You signed off on it when you went to work and saw or heard for yourself through the people that you work with the evil underbelly of the beast in this country as your co-workers belittled, besmirched, denigrated, and humiliated others simply because they could. You signed off on it whenever you walked away from your cushy job and got in your cushy car and drove home to your overly protected, ultra-safe neighborhood where police patrol the perimeters of the borders of your cushy neighborhood, making sure no unwanted persons got in. You sign off on it when you knowingly allow the people in your town to pass laws and ordinances you know would be harmful to those other people if they tried to cross your border. You signed off on it and you think nothing about it. Nothing about the fact that all the kids in your kids' school have the same basic complexion, and whenever a kid of a more complex complexion came around, you got nervous. But you weren't nervous because of their complexion. You were nervous because of the guilt that was stirred inside of you, because you knew you were living a lie. A lie you perpetuate because you would rather be silent and reap the blood money that gives you all the trappings of your life. Because then you can close and bolt your doors in your overly safe neighborhood away from people like yourself who just couldn't wait to move next door to, but not get to know because you can't look each other in the eye without seeing the ugly truth. The truth you signed off on. And that's what it is, isn't it? Now you can insert whatever color you want, whatever nationality you want. Everybody in this country is guilty of blood money. Now, back in the day, when my mom and my grandmother and my great-grandmother were alive, that would have been a fairer statement for one side of the country than the other. But today, we're talking about rich against poor. Right now, we're talking about people who are just struggling, trying to get a place to live, food in their bellies, medical assistance when they need it. Blood money. Every time you think about it, well, every time I think about it anyway, it just kind of, it hurts my heart because, and I know it's like beating a dead horse, but guess what? I will beat that dead horse as long as I have to until somebody says, you know what? She's right. We have no right to turn our eyes up to the back of our head and roll them all the way back to North Dakota because somebody like me and people like me are complaining because the laws that are in this country are against the disenfranchised people in this country. The disenfranchised. And back in the day, that used to be just black people and a few poor whites and definitely, some Asians and some Latinos, the Spanish. But today, it's the rich against the poor. And don't think that just because you have a job that you make some 5-figure job that somehow you got a dog in the fight. Because trust me when I tell you, you are just as much a pawn as those of us who make 4-figure salaries, 5-figure salaries, and 6-figure salaries. Honey, unless you make a 7-figure salary that has another zero showing up real soon, making it well over $200-300 million, you ain't got a dog in the fight. And if you do, then I'm talking to you. That's blood money. Every time you accepted some deal that you knew was going to disenfranchise somebody else, you were accepting blood money, but you didn't think about it. And we easily turn a blind eye to all that stuff all the time. And it's hurtful. And when I was coming up, you just say, how can people sleep at night knowing that these horrible things are happening around us all the time? Well, I tell you what, honey, there's a lot of people out there that's doing that, and they're sleeping just fine. They're making Facebook videos, and they playing with money on Facebook, playing with it in videos. They playing with it. They throwing it in the air. They going to strip clubs, and trust me, I am not complaining. You got that kind of money, of course, it's your right to do whatever you want with it. But if you got that kind of money, think about the people who are disenfranchised. The people who have to wait in line every 2 years or so when Section 8 decides that it's going to start giving out applications. So people who make less than 4 figures a year, 4. That's right, they're on Medicaid, they're on public aid, and they still can't make their rent with their little jobs that they have, because they don't get paid $15 an hour. They get paid $7.50 or less if they can find a job. And they get to go out there and stand in the line for hours and hours and hours to fill out an application for an apartment they might get. They might get. And I've seen that for a fact. That's in the city of Chicago. And now we have to deal with an administration that wants to cut Medicare, Medicaid. They want to give a voucher program to schools. And all of these people that are doing this are people who have money. People who have no idea what it's like to wake up in the morning and say, how am I going to feed my kids? Okay, my baby got holes in their pockets. My baby I got some peanut butter and jelly. If I save that for dinner tonight and send them to school early, they can eat breakfast and lunch and come home and get something to eat. But see, they don't see that. All they see is some poor person who just sits at home doing nothing. And that's just not true. That's not the way things are. But they want to accept the blood money that they get. If, the new head of the education department is dismantling. I don't even want to say her name. I looked at her confirmation hearings and I thought, there ain't no way on the planet they're going to confirm this woman. And then I said, who am I trying to kid? She's a Republican, a billionaire Republican. And she's sitting there smiling, lying through her teeth, don't know jack shit about the education program. And I looked this up. Jimmy Carter. We're talking 1976, and instituted the Department of Education, 1976. Some of us was in high school or just getting in high school or graduating from high school. And when you think about it, that's what, less than 30, 40 years ago? And now we still got this problem with people not understanding that we have to do something to make sure this stays like it is. But it's all blood money, because they're so busy trying to make sure that they get their own. Here we are right now. This rich woman has an agenda. And it's called, let's dismantle everything that the previous administration did. I know there was a blackout for a second there, but I'm sorry about that. These things happen when you're trying to do more than one thing at one time. I really should be just focused on what I'm doing. And right now, I just want to focus on letting you all know that it's very important that we understand that there's an agenda happening right now in our country, in this administration. And there are some people who are backpedaling on their support, and we have to be thankful for that. But we still need to understand, if it's not enough of them backpedaling on their agenda to dismantle all of the good things that have happened in the past almost 10 years, then we could find ourselves back where we were in the Bush administration, in the first Bush administration. They cut daycare. They took away things that we don't even fight over anymore, because we just move on. We're so used to getting stepped on by them, we just keep it going. We just keep moving. Isn't that sad? It really is. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Actually, I don't want to talk about something else, but I do want y'all to hear this. It's called The Truth Is. I guess it's called The Truth Is. It's going to play eventually. It's not going to play. Well, I guess what? That's okay if it don't play. I am a girl who likes to think that she is always prepared for everything. And so, yeah, I am actually. Yes, I am. The truth is not what you think it is. The truth is we're getting screwed. We're getting screwed by our government. And the people that put him in office, they're getting screwed worse than we are, because they honestly thought that something was going to happen that was going to put everything just wonderful. I mean, we're talking about from the wall to everything else. How about this? I'm going to talk to y'all. Listen to this one thing that I have. It's called, It's Not Easy Being Green. That's what Kermit said on television one night when I was a kid. Maybe I was a teen. I don't remember. And see, that's what smoking weed, doing other drugs, drinking alcohol, and partying a lot will do to you. Even though I was just a kid at the time, I understood the societal undertones of a green puppet frog. He was trying to fit into a world that only saw life one way. And I vaguely remember the frog saying it wasn't like being purple or yellow or orange. I added in brown or beige or black. Even at my tender age, I understood what it was like not to be accepted for who I was. As I got older, I added in disabled or mentally retarded. And the world said that I had to be politically correct, that I was insulting someone using that kind of language. But that was the language the world developed. That was the language the world propagated to make sure we knew we were on the bottom rung of society. Becoming politically correct made it difficult to make my point. I have children who are educationally challenged. They both have ADD and ADHD. They both struggled to learn in school and were in danger of being left behind. It wasn't political correctness that got them past all the hurdles they had to overcome to graduate from one level in the public school system to another. It was diligence on their part. They didn't know that the system is stacked against them to succeed because they were always a little green, because they always had to go that extra mile to make the grade. It didn't help that the other colors of the rainbow were in them as well, those extra colors that made it difficult at best for them to succeed. See, I didn't want them to see those differences, but life has always had a way to point them out to them, and they had to deal with them even when I wasn't watching. And I always thought I was watching. Isn't that we all want to think? But green became that color that became the bane of my existence. The idea is to fight against all the norms. Well, what's normal? Everything is. It was normal for me to make sure that my kids got an education. It was normal for me to research and ask questions and research and ask questions and present my findings to their teachers and principals. It was normal to make it a point to be the room mom in kindergarten, to be a member of the PTA, to volunteer to be the chaperone for every field trip. It was normal to decide that the time had come and they would have to leave public school and attend a private Christian school because, in my humble opinion, it was better for them. But that was a lie. They were better off where I left them. There, I knew who the enemy was, up close and personal, the enemy we knew. Why should the enemy try hard to defeat you when you're defeating yourself? It's not easy being green. Maybe those other colors would have helped, but it's way too late to think about it now. It's done. No takebacks. Try being uneducated, disabled, a veteran with PTSD. Life isn't easy. If it were, not one person would complain. Some live privileged lives and have never known what it's meant to struggle for even the least of things. When I wasn't smart enough to understand that you can't go back and change anything, I dreamed often of doing just that. But isn't it funny how we grow up and realize that wishes are just wishes? None ever really come true. Planning ahead and working the dream, that's real. My color and the color of my kids kept being a problem. No matter what truth I told them, they still see that color looking back at them in the mirror every morning. So no, it's not easy being green or a frog these days. We don't consider the ant, the frog, or even the rainbow. But if you had to change your color to fit in every day, how would you feel? Yeah, I thought about that. What if you had to change your color every day to fit in? What if you had no other choice but to change your color every day to fit in? Because today, I'm going to fit in with them. And the only way to do that is to snap my fingers and wave my magic wand and be somebody I'm not. And then at the end of the day, I get to be who I really am to the people who know me so I can fit in. And that's just like accepting blood money. Is it honest? Not by any stretch of the imagination. But that's what we've all had to try to figure out how to do, fit in.
It's a damn shame. It feels like we're back in the 60s, the 70s, and just, God forbid, the 80s. God knows nobody really cares about the 80s. But things were moving in the 80s, weren't they? See, I forgot about that. Black folks was getting credit cards and being approved for massive loans for homes and cars. And we were able to move into those fabulous neighborhoods we were never able to move into. And those other people, they were moving out into the suburbs. They were making subdivisions and building big houses. That's right. They were getting as far away from us as fast as they could. And I have to keep asking myself, who's the pawn here? Who's really being taken for a ride? If we're the ones who don't have any money, if we're the ones who haven't used our power, and every time some catastrophic financial thing happened in this country, how could it have been anything of our fault? They're doing it to themselves. But unfortunately, it's much like the people in the disenfranchised neighborhoods today, across the board, are shooting themselves. I did a study last year and year before last on the shootings in Chicago, and basically just in Chicago because I'm from Chicago. That's my hometown. And when I did it back in 2015, there were approximately, I didn't count them on my hand, 2 fingers, 2 children who had been shot. One actually was killed. Last year, that number tripled. This year, more children have been killed, shot, between January and March of this year than in the past 5 years due to gun violence. So we're running around worrying about things and they are worth worrying about. But we are up in arms about this. I like to call it the Orange administration. A lot of people do. And some people like to call it the number 45. Oh, geez. I think that's just awful. You're going to go down in history as the unpresident. That's what I like to call them. But they are dismantling things that everyone in this country have just fought so courageously hard for. And here we are, it seems like, in 2017, March. And we got to keep fighting for the same shit that we've been trying to keep. Finally got. I mean, we got a president who doesn't even believe in climate change. Come on, dude, give me a break. Anyway, I do got issues. I ain't gonna lie. But just to keep it real, let me see if I can play y'all this. Hold on a second.
Anger issues. I have them. Yes, I do. I can't remember when I didn't. Sometimes when you least expect it, an infinitesimal thought from a time you haven't given any thought to in a long time takes advantage of a quiet time. It slips in under the radar in a moment of introspection, blasting through like a tidal wave during a day at the park near the shore while you're enjoying a glass of Chardonnay with your significant other, who just happens to be apologizing again. And it's there. And you don't really have a full memory of why anger is an issue. It just is. But anger is in the details. The first time I rolled my eyes in righteous indignation, my youth clouded my ability to see anything except what I wanted. My eyes rolled clean through my teens. And as time passed, as the years do, my hands made gestures clearly not measured in the least explainable. But whenever the feeling of anger arose, it became clear where the fuse started and ended. With me, externally. Hands raised in the air, fists balled into knots, my fingers splayed, pointing accusations at the offending party. And just when I thought there was going to be a time to cool down, my head couldn't stop throbbing because I really didn't realize that my eyes became shot with blood and my face was contorting to a point that I could see harsh lines along my cheekbones. But the worst part was feeling your heart race like a herd of stampeding rhino or elephants. Your jaw aching because before you even said a word, you were grinding and gritting your teeth and your molars so hard, it was what caused the headache in the first place. And you were gripping something balled in your hand and found out it was just tissue. Time is not your friend in times like these. You know it's best to keep your mouth shut. Stay out of it. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, You just can't. You know, I am seriously having some serious issues. I'm probably going to rebroadcast this tonight because I don't know if you all heard that broadcast. I couldn't hear it in my headphones. That doesn't mean that you didn't hear it. All right, so that's my rant for tonight. I am up in arms about so many things, and it's difficult to follow just one thing. But I have followed this. I followed the money, and I don't care what anybody says. We have a president who seems to be trying very hard to pick a fight, and it just seems to me that he doesn't care who he picks a fight with, and he doesn't care if the fight starts here in this country. And that's really sad because we need to care about whether or not he starts a fight here in this country or not, because it's our country. We all had a dog in this fight when it came to building it. And whether we find ourselves in the history books about it or not, we are all still here. I have a real serious problem with that. I really do. And I got a lot of anger issues about it. I'm trying to find something that's a little short to play, but I'm such a long-winded person when it comes to my poetry. I can't find anything. And here's the problem. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I'm Joe Bright. This is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. I'm also a co-host on the Jamaica Funk Show with KT and Christos, Catherine Winston. She has her own little Spreaker podcast, and I like to listen to that. You all need to check it out on Spreaker as well. And we're all going to be recording our show tomorrow over at Christos Furs. And because we have a social media television show on the YouTube channel of Catherine Winston, Jamaica Funk Show. Join us, check us out. We got some nice episodes up there. Do I have one more thing? I always got one more thing. You better believe it. The question is, what is that one more thing? How do we present one more thing without running out of time? I don't like running out of time. But here it is. I found something. Yeah, here it is. It's called Everything Was Going So Well. I was finally doing all those things I thought I wanted to do. I was the mistress of my destiny. No one had control over my day. It was planned out to my specifications. Nothing happened that I didn't know about. Not even on my schedule. I set my own gigs, wrote my own script. Then I was sucker punched into thinking that I had a place in this world, that somehow I had a dog in this fight. I forgot that I didn't want anything to do with this fight, because this fight, this battle, it isn't for people who believe if you play fair and respect others' boundaries that somehow yours would be, because that's just not true here. This world isn't for you to conquer or to claim. And there are already victors here. And they aren't about to give up that throne without a fight. And the fight won't be fair. Too many of the people in the world have claimed parts of this world as their own. And they aren't about to relinquish power to you, me, or anyone else. They have plans for that power. And their children have been molded for decades so that they can be handed that power when the time comes. And their children have been fighting over it because they know one day it's going to belong to them. Now, if you want to read more of that, you want to hear about more of Joe's poetry, excerpts from my resume, you can go to my YouTube channel. It's called Excerpts from My Resume. Or you can go to mamayaya.wixsite.com. That's MOMMAYAYA.WRXSITE.com/website or /my site. Yes, I tend to overdo things. I can't help it. That's just who I am. But the truth is, I have a voice, and everybody has a voice, and things are happening in this country really fast. And don't be guilty of accepting blood money. I like to think that I'm not. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But if you look at your life right now and you think that you've earned something simply because you got there in time, knowing full well it was more than just getting there in time, or that there was this thing happening, and if you just bided your time, or can you bode your time? I'm going to have to look that one up. The fact of the matter is, we all have a voice and we all have to use it. We can't sit on our laurels. We can't just complain about it. We have to be a part of the fight. And it's an ugly fight. But if we don't all get in it together and do something about it, we're all going to be guilty of the downfall of this country. Think of our country as your own home. How would you want it to be run? If mom's not good at the finances, dad does it. If dad's not good at the finances, mom does it. If they're both bad at it, then you need a third uninterested party who has no, maybe the kids can do it. But the fact is, we need to look at this country as our home. We got somebody in charge that don't need to be in charge. And the person that nobody wanted to be in charge, had we voted for her, would we be going through these things now? I don't know. But the fact is, we are. This is the way things are right now. I hate looking at my phone every morning. Do you know I've gotten to the point where I don't even like going on my phone in the morning because I see his face everywhere I go. I have just like, okay, if I could just not see his face, I would probably be okay. Because there's just some things we just can't deal with. And let's just face it, the man is narcissistic. He really loves to see himself. He really loves it when people talk about him. And that's, unfortunately, they say that's what celebrities are. They love to see themselves. And he has sycophants around him. And let's not even get into that. But this is Johanna Bright, also known as Joe Bright, a.k.a. Joe's Poetry, excerpts from my resume. And this is Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance. And I'll come on every Wednesday night, or I try to anyway. I will come on again. It's just because I just want everybody to know that if you have a voice, use it. If you have some poetry and you want it played on this podcast, please, by all means, get in touch with me. Follow me on Facebook at Excerpts from My Resume or My Resume. You can inbox me on Facebook because, that is the ultimate medium right there. You can just leave me a message on inbox me on Facebook. That's a good thing to do. I will get back to you. I'm that person that just goes through everything. I can't help it. It's just who I am. I am a social media strategist. Tonight's show, I hope that everyone was able to hear everything in its entirety. I had some serious functional problems going on. I mean, I didn't hear it, but that doesn't mean that you didn't hear me. And that's important. And if that doesn't work out, then I will just do this baby all over again. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back. You all have a blessed night. Go watch Empire if you recorded it. I did. And I'm a fan. Taraji, you're my girl. She is every black woman's dream. Get out there and do something about what's going on, people. Call your congressmen, call your senators, call your representatives. Don't be guilty of accepting blood money. Don't get ahead knowing that there was things you could have done before you got there. There's nothing wrong with getting ahead. It's how you get there. Anyway. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I'm everywhere you want to be. I like to tell people to Google me. And come on, enjoy the journey with me. I am changing the world, people, one line at a time. That's right, me. Am I doing it by myself? I like to think that I am, but if you join the journey with me, we can do it together. In any case, y'all have a blessed night. This is Joe Bright. This has been Poetry Song BFD, Battle for Dominance.